Hello everyone, Angelo here. Today I'll be doing an overall aim and mechanics guide. So I hope you enjoy it and I hope you learned something new. So let's talk about mechanics in Apex and how it affects gameplay and how it affects other players' playstyle. So there are different playstyles that varies from different players such as Hollow, Lyric, aceu, Fontayne, Shura, and how each of these players' playstyles are different from one another. One guy could be playing completely aggressive, another could be playing completely passive aggressive. So I know this isn't me just talking about other players, this is supposed to be a guide video, but I just can't ignore the fact that each individual player have different playstyles, and that each guide that is put out from those players revolves around their own playstyle. But for now, let's get into my own playstyle and how I think of things whenever I'm playing Apex. Alright, about mechanics. Mechanics are different in every FPS shooter. Everything from aim, movement, and being flashy. Since Apex is a movement shooter, it is known that aim and movement is important to be the best of the best. Unless if you're a controller player. So let's start off with the basics. It is important to have good aim mechanics in Apex because Apex is a very aim focused game, but that's in general for any FPS game. Since having insane aim in itself could help you achieve the highest ranks like these two guys over here, what I would do to achieve good aim is focus on mouse control. So for all my non-aim training viewers, you don't need any aim trainers to help you achieve good mouse control. Track the bots like this in the range. And if you undertrack, turn up the sensitivity. And if you overtrack, turn down the sensitivity. This is a good way to find the perfect sensitivity, quote unquote perfect. A good sensitivity could massively help with mouse control. If you catch yourself having shaky aim, I would highly recommend relaxing your arm and wrist while doing this exercise, as you might catch yourself undertracking or overtracking now since you relaxed your wrist or arm. So just repeat the same exercise until you feel good and ready to move on to recoil control. I'll leave some videos in the description to help with that. Alright, now for my aim training viewers. In order to achieve good mouse control, hop on some Kovacs or aim lab scenarios that help with smoothness, tracking, shakiness, and dodge. Here's my Kovacs playlist code. These are all the scenarios that help me get outstanding results. Alright, so for my warm-up, I would often hop on the firing range and practice my recoil with SMGs and ARs. As for the wingman, I would typically just try to do this exercise. After 30 or 40 minutes, I would hop in and play some public matches, and it's a pretty basic warm-up, but it does rub off any stiffness on my arms and wrists. As for practice, I would hop on Kovacs and practice my own scenarios in my playlist for about 2 hours. And then just complete the playlist as it is, and just hyper focus on accuracy. After that, I would spend another hour just in the range and practice recoil control again. and even doing 1v1s with friends.
Let's go this way.
Nice Yuki Sheriff. Ow. Horror! Oh fuck!
Motherfucker's in my mouth.
I would normally play ranked after practice. Alright, for training, I would train on Kovacs for about 4 to 6 hours twice a week, and hyper focus on things that I'm not sharp at. For example, if I'm not good at tracking, I would hyper focus on tracking. And if I'm not good at strafing, I would just hop on dodge scenarios. And if I'm not good at the wingman, I would play some static scenarios. That's it for training, as I usually don't really play on training days. Each player that I've known from the Apex community uses movement differently. Some players use movement when it's most necessary. Some of the time they use movement in a flashy way, or they can even do both. So let's cover the different types of movement, as well as the different categories of movement. Slide jumping is fairly simple. You simply want to run and activate a slide, and then jump. Disclaimer: if you slide jump and try to immediately slide, you will be met with a dead slide. A dead slide is basically a slide that has no momentum. To counter a dead slide is to make sure you run forward a little bit, and then attempt the slide, before the initial slide jump. And now for slide hopping. Slide hopping is something that I use for traversal purposes and fighting purposes. A slide hop is basically a slide jump and a continuous hop right after. In order to do this hop, you have to spam the jump key. Slide hopping is good for setting up other movement tech for fights. For example, slides, fatigue bounces, and even different types of lurches or even tap strafes, which I will cover more on later in this video. A ledge slide is a movement tech that is very useful into starting a fight, chasing someone down while they run away, and also using it mid-fight. It is basically a slide right after a climb up. You only need one frame as soon as you climb up, and then slide right after. Keep in mind, timing is everything for this movement tech. In order to do a tap strafe, you'll have to activate and stack 5 to 6 forward lurches. So a tap strafe is possible when you hit the W key or your forward key 5 to 6 times. But you have to do it really fast though. But to make your life easier, head over to the settings tab and go over to keybinds and set your forward input key to scroll wheel up or down, whichever you prefer. You can do all sorts of tap strafes, 90 degrees to the left or 90 degrees to the right, even a 182 or a 360, but that depends on the mousepad or the desk space. A wall bounce is a multi-purpose movement tech. I mostly use it to run away from a fight or to jump right into one. In order to do a wall bounce, you will first have to run and slide jump into a wall and hit one of your left or right movement key, depending which side of the wall you are going to wall bounce from. Hit the left movement key if a wall is at the left, or hit the right movement key if the wall is at the right. You will soon notice a mantle or a climbing animation. When this appears, you will simply have to jump right after. Take your time learning it and keep practicing, as this movement tech is fairly hard to learn. Alright, finally, my favorite movement tech. So in order to do a fatigue bounce, you have to understand the hop mechanic. So the hop mechanic starts with a big jump and then it speeds up to smaller hops. These small hops are going to be used for our fatigue bounce. So to start a fatigue bounce, we have to input the keys to attempt a fatigue bounce. So right as you have the small hops, you want to small hop into a wall and input the same keys as a wall bounce. Just a disclaimer, this takes a lot of timing practice, and enough practice you will hit it 99% of the time without even thinking about it. This movement tech is the most useful during fights, as it can confuse the enemy and the person you're fighting can lose LOS of you. First thing you need to learn about zip jump mechanics is a super jump. A super jump is hitting your interact key and then jumping right off the zip. This will give you a large boost up in the air after hitting the zip line. For a zip jump, you have to interact and jump at the same time right after a super jump. And if you want to do multiple zip jumps, you have to quickly look back at the zip and do it again. But important note is that you can only do it 3 times. And the 2 guys to blame are right here. Elite jumping is another zip tech that is used to gain height. In order to do this, simply turn 180 and super jump. But the timing here is to turn 180 first and then super jump. Doing it too fast or too slow won't work, so it's basically all timing. Ah, the Superglide. Everybody wants to do it because it looks flashy and cool. It looks so cool that people even mess with config files to do it. But here I am showing you how to do it consistently with practice, of course. So for the Superglide, I highly recommend you to practice the climb up timing before trying to input the keybinds. I highly recommend to not use your scroll wheel for the jump, but rather use your spacebar. And as for your crouch, I would recommend you setting your crouch keybind to V or C, so that your thumb is hovering over your spacebar and those inputs. So for the technique, you want to hit your jump first before crouching, but since your whole thumb is on both keybinds, you want to roll your thumb from spacebar to your crouch key, which is C or either V. Flipping your crouch keycap upside down helps as well. There are many flashy players out there, but my flashy playstyle is heavily inspired by many amazing players. I'll leave everyone's socials that I mentioned in this video in the description. Being flashy adds flair to your gameplay and makes the game a little bit more fun. The way that I play is basically aggressive and flashy at the same time. Flashy in a sense of typical Wraith players, spam kunai inspect and slide hop, fatigue bounce, zip bounce in front of everyone, kind of what these guys are doing. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people have inspirations and even implement other players' playstyles into their games. I'm mainly an aim guy, as you can see from the last few videos, but a little fun movement doesn't hurt anyone. That's all for me.